Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing another first impressions video, and this one is definitely one you're going to want to stick around for because it's probably the most anticipated series of the year. Today we're going to be talking about Kingdom. It's a manga that fans have been asking for a translation to English for at least a decade now, and it's finally come. With the first volume finally coming out earlier this month, I was one of those fans wanting to add this series to my collection for many years. I honestly thought that because of how long the series already was into its run in Japan, we would never see it over here in America. So before going into the actual first impressions of the video and the impressions of the series, I just want to give Viz its props for bringing such a popular series from Japan over to the American audience and the English-speaking audience as a whole. And uniquely to this series, I don't know if there's other series they've been doing it with, but they're going to be releasing a new volume every single month in an attempt to catch up to the Japanese run, which is at about 80 volumes right now. The story and art is done by Yasuhisa Hara, who got his start in the manga industry working as an assistant for the well-known and renowned Takehiko Inoue, who worked on series such as Slam Dunk, Vagabond, and currently he is working on his series Real. After obtaining experience under Inoue, Hara began to form the blueprint for what would become what is now one of the longest running series in the magazine. Before his career as a mangaka, he was a major fan of the work Shiji. Unlike many other mangakas' inspiration, this was not another manga that had been published and seen success in the past, but it was actually a historical Chinese text. He decided this was the story he wanted to tell, and so he began. With no sign of an end in sight, readers are still following this complex story that began all the way back in 2006 to this day. One thing I definitely find unique about Yasuhisa Hara is that he chooses a story and he seemingly commits to telling this story in its entirety, no matter how long it takes. Although he's not the only mangaka who follows this philosophy, it puts him in great company with some of the other greats such as Ichiro Oda, the author of One Piece, or Araki, who is the author of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Hara has such dedication to this story, and it's no wonder it's already sold over 110 million copies worldwide. So as I dove into the first volume, I just had one question on my mind. Was it worth the wait? Similar to other first impressions I have on the channel, it will be as spoiler-free as possible, only including some minor spoilers if it's needed to explain the overall plot being set up in the first volume usually. But since this story has such a long history, it doesn't feel fair to solely judge the series off the first 8 chapters of the story when it has an almost 80 volume run at this point. For that reason, I decided for this video only, I'm going to be including some of the amazing artwork that appears later on in the series to really show off what you got to look forward to going forward into the series. As a historical epic, the story does not start from inside a palace or anywhere fancy, but instead a shed in a poverty-stricken area of the Qin Kingdom. Here we meet our main character Jin, a war orphan with one dream, to become the greatest general in history and bring unity to all of China. He's not alone though, with a fellow orphan who's also been living alongside of him since birth. He's portrayed as Jin's other half. They train daily to become stronger, forming a familiar bond that would make you really think they're brothers, and on one fateful night, his world really does change forever. His eyes are not only open to the depravity that war really does fester, losing the last person he considers family, he also has to make the fateful decision to commit to this life of war with the weight of not only his dreams, but his lost friends as well. In this first volume, there isn't really too much development in terms of politics in the world. However, with the story being heavily based on a historical text, I can already see the roots being laid for a really deep and complex world being developed as the story evolves. One aspect I really enjoyed was how our main character's story as a warrior begins. I was expecting a slow build-up where he worked his way up the political ladder to eventually become a general. However, seemingly, the story is taking it in a different route, with his first quote-unquote mission being to protect and safely transport the king himself. Ying Zhang, the king, is a very young king, and he appears to be in his late teens to early 20s, and it's not clear the exact reasoning yet, but unrest seems to go all the way up to the top. Seeing as it's Ying's own younger brother who's attempting to assassinate him. If Jin is able to save the king, it's going to be interesting to see how they develop as a pair. They're already forming a bond with one another, both putting their lives on the line to save each other, and it makes me think they will work to change China together, and the story will probably continue following both of them. Which to me is a very interesting way to take the story and not where I thought it was going to go at all. Seeing Jin becoming a general already working side by side with the king himself, I think will lead to some very complex story plots coming in the future, and I can't wait to see it. Kingdom being classified as a historical epic, I wasn't expecting there to be any comedy at all in the series, but it does have its moments where it does take itself less serious, which for a long-running series is always nice to see. One character that brings a comedic feel to the story is Liao Diao. I think I'm butchering the pronunciation of her name, but just saying her name is fun. She's the last descendant of the mountain tribe that was recently wiped out, and she ends up joining the group because she has nowhere else to go. I couldn't tell you what it's supposed to be, but she wears this, the bird costume, alongside with the funny facial expression she gives other characters, brings some much needed light to the story that I expect is going to get dark very soon. Although it's still early in the story, and her role in the story hasn't really played out too much yet, I feel like she's going to play a similar role to Puck in Berserk. I could be totally wrong. I have nothing to base that off of, just how they act in the first few chapters where they appear. Along with the King and Jin, they're quite a diverse trio, with each having individual traits I appreciate in a character, and I'm impressed Hara is able to set up 3 characters I'm already finding myself invested in. In terms of first impressions, the story and world are the highlights for me. However, the artwork is not lacking either. The reason I decided to include some artwork from later in the series is because it seems he develops drastically, artistically as the story continues, just from the research I was doing while making this video. That's not to say it's bad in the beginning though. As you can see, it's actually quite good. Having his mentor, Inoue, arguably the greatest artist to ever write manga, it's definitely left an impression on him, and it shows. Hara is the only other mangaka that can go from silly joke panels to realistic works of art when the story requires it, which I really think he honed from working with Inoue, because the only other series that I've really seen it accomplished and effective to the same way it is in Kingdom is in Inoue's own series, Slam Dunk. All things considered, it may not have been exactly what I was expecting, but it was without a doubt worth the wait. I can't wait to keep going with the story and seeing Jin carve his name into history. I wasn't too sure how I felt about having to pick up a new volume every month in order to stay up to date, but now I wish they were coming out every 2 weeks. I have a feeling this is going to be a series that has the same effect on me as One Piece, where I'm just clamoring for the next release and counting down the days for the next volume. I'm also glad Viz opted to release the series in its signature line. Although that means a higher cost, around $15 a volume depending on where you live, a series such as this deserves the slightly higher and larger print quality that comes with the more premium line that the signature gives. If you're looking for a new manga to dig your teeth into, Kingdom is a great choice. The series and story may not be for everyone. Obviously, if you tend not to enjoy seinen manga, this may not be for you, and based on the world and context of the story, I can definitely see it being very graphic and bloody in the future, so if that's not your thing, probably stick away from this one. And being a historical epic, I already know there's going to be some dialogue dumps in this series, so if you're not into that, yeah, you might want to skip this one as well. And I mean, if you don't like reading, there's 80 volumes already, so get ready. With that being said, I'm happy to add this series in my collection, and I'm impressed with the first volume. I know this is a popular release, so many of you also probably checked it out. If you have, let me know what you thought about it. Did anything stand out as unique to you in the first volume that I didn't mention? If I accidentally left something out, feel free to comment down below to let everyone else know. And if you guys are a fan of this type of video, let me know by subscribing. I have plenty more planned. The main thing really slowing me down right now isn't the recording or the ideas for the video. It's mainly the editing. It's a little involved. It takes probably triple the amount of time it takes me to write and record the video. But hopefully, the more videos I make, the quicker I'll be with the editing process, so I'll be able to start getting videos out quicker to you guys. And speaking of videos, the next video will most likely be a wrap-up video for all the manga I read in the month of November. I think that'll be a cool thing to do at the end of every month. I don't know if I'm going to do it every month, but for the months I'm reading a lot, I think I'm going to do it just to touch base with you guys and kind of see if you guys are reading the series, if we agree, disagree, and I'd also like to get some recommendations from you guys based on what I'm reading. So that's the idea with that. Alright guys, I hope to see you in that video. If not, I'll see you when I see you, and peace out.